My NDE took place in April of 2000, like April 2nd. I had come home from work, um, and I was feeling really tired. It was the last few weeks I was waking up with blood in my mouth, like I bite my tongue or something. And at work, we had been pulled off aside because they had started talking about this virus, this COVID thing. And I'm like, I was 49 at the time. I was like, man, whatever. So April 2nd, I came home from work, sat down on this very couch, very same spot, and I had made dinner, went to take a bite of my sandwich, and I coughed up blood, bright red blood. It was just terrible tasting because, I had swallowed some of it, and I was just like, oh, but then it wouldn't stop. I mean, I literally had like that much floating blood on my plate, and I was beginning to wheeze, and I couldn't breathe, and of course panic sets in. I was like, what is going on? And then, breathing was very, very labored, and I'm still coughing up blood. And FaceTime my ex-wife. Um, she was a nurse and RN, and long story short, she finally answered the phone. I was like, what do you want? And I tried speaking to her, and blood just covered the phone. And by that time, I couldn't even hold my head up. I put my head down, and I just like, I need to go to bed. I need to lie down. And the last thing I remember her saying, was Jason. Very not frantic, but very, very concerned, very scared. And I remember her saying, Jason, if you lie down, you're going to die. And I said, I'm so tired. I just need to go to bed. And that's all I remember. I remember waking up in the ICU, um, dark by this time because it was still light. I was April, so spring. So it was, the days were getting longer. So at what day it was, I have no idea. Time ceased. All I remember was just blackness. For how long? Don't know. Then I woke up in the ICU room. Um, Hands and feet were strapped to the bed. I couldn't even move them more than an eighth of an inch up. Both my hands and feet. I had a tube down the throat, stuff in the nose, and an IV in my carotid artery here. And when I woke up, I was in excruciating pain. Mind altering pain would be the best way to describe it. I had never felt pain like this in my entire life. And I woke up and there's a myriad of doctors around me. And the room was dark, except for the hallway, which was lit up, you know. But the room was dark. And there was a bunch of people, few over on this side, but most of them on this side, just screaming my name. Talk, Jason, Jason, you know how you know where you are. I didn't care about that. From the moment my eyes awoke, there was a presence in the left-hand corner of the room where the TV was. Undeniable presence. I could feel it. Um, it was a safe feeling. It was a yearning to go there. Like I just wanted to go to that space. And I was in ICU for a month, and that presence was never gone. And I'll speed it up a little bit because I went through all of this, a bunch of things. But at the end, they had taken the tube out. I had recovered, and catheter and all the stuff was out. Nobody was in my room. By that time, I had lost about 70 pounds. Um, and I was staring at the TV. And I remember one of the nurses during that time said, Jason, do you want me to turn the TV on for you? This is when I still had the tube and stuff in my mouth. And I'm like, and I couldn't say anything, and I couldn't move my hands or feet, so I just, I was about, I was thinking in my head, how do you tell somebody there's somebody standing there? There's something there. And I was like, you better not. Um, so everybody was out of the room at the time. And then, now, mind you, I grew up a Christian or a Catholic from my grandparents. I don't know if my parents were religious at all. They never took me to church. It was just my grandparents that had, especially my grandmother, that brought me up in Catholic. in Catholicism, even going to a Catholic church, or Catholic school, I should say. See, for 2 years, I mean, read that Bible from cover to cover numerous times, um, and I knew I was doomed. But early on in my childhood, I'd say about 9 or 10 years old, I quit going to church. I quit going or having anything to do with it because I was abused as a child, heavily. I had some questionable experiences, bisexual, when I was very young. And I knew from reading that Bible that I was doomed. There was no hope for me. I just really gave up, you know, just gave up on life. I didn't care anymore. I chose to live in the pain and the suffering. I chose to live in the darkness. So I got up on my hands, or on my elbows, and I was shaking uncontrollably. I couldn't speak, and I'm staring at this TV. Now this is the first time since probably 1979 that I talked to God. I literally cried out to God. I begged him not to die. I sobbing uncontrollable. I couldn't talk. And really, and I'm, please don't let me die. Please, please don't let me die. I told him how sorry I was for abandoning him and Jesus. Now I'm still believing in Christianity at this time, right? So I said, please, I never stopped believing. I stopped having a relationship with you, and I am sorry for that. I went on to say, please don't take my children from me. Please let me see them one more time. Let me hold my daughters. And then I moved into a person that I loved deeply. Come to find out, she's my twin flame. Um, and I was describing my love for her. I won't mention the name. And I said, please don't take her from me. And I am sobbing uncontrollably, shaking uncontrollably because I had no strength. And please, I love her. Please don't take her from me. I want to smell her breath. I want to hold her hand. I want to make love to her. And it was in that moment that I was describing my love for her that my near death experience occurred. And it started with an instant. I could see everything behind me instantly, the whole ICU room, everything. And now, instead of looking up at the TV, I was at the top of the ceiling, looking down at this corpse, seeing everybody dying around me. I could see every blade of grass in the field, every blade of grass moving independently. I mean, I could see the serrations on each blade of grass. I could see the green, it was alive. So the colors inside were moving. It was like liquid in the most magnificent green. And there was a little white, I could see their soul, the grass's soul. And I could see the outline of the trees and their soul, and the color of the brown that was moving within them, and the color of the blue of the sky didn't exist. And I was like, all pain stopped. All pain stopped. There was no pain. Time ceased to exist. This could have taken 50 hours, 5 minutes, 5 seconds. Have no clue. I was young again, 18 to 22, 23, somewhere in there. And I was energized or juiced. Like I was plugged into the universe's battery pack. And I mean, I was lit up. Like, whoa. And the thought barely got into my consciousness when I said, I'm home. And that's exactly the way I said it. I'm home. And I was just in this unbelievable love and light. There are just no words in this barbaric, archaic language that we have to anywhere come close to the love that was bestowed upon me. It just doesn't exist. I don't want to get emotional on you guys. And it flowed through me like a river. Like if you were placed in the middle of a river, like a 15 feet down in a decent flowing river, the water would hit you and move around you. Well, this love and this warmth that was as warm as the sun flowed through every part of my being. And it never stopped. It never faltered. It never wavered. I was just immersed and encompassed in this love and light. I knew exactly where I was. I was home. The next thought that started creeping in was, what a great day to die. Like, it was nothing. I had done it before. I knew I had done it before. I was one with everything. All of you, the grass, the trees, the animals, the entire universe. I knew everything there was to ever know within a trillionth of a second. And I'm just being loved. I saw nobody. I saw the trees' souls and everybody's souls, but I knew who was standing in front of me. I knew who was by the TV, and that was my Father, God. And as I immersed in the light, I became the light. I became one with my Father. I and the Father are one. I became God, and I was like, I'm home. And then another presence showed up, and I want to say I looked to straight ahead, but I could see everything. So to say I'm turning my head is because I didn't have a head. I was simply existing as energy at this point in time, pure consciousness. But that other being that would be at my 12 o'clock instead of 11. So that was Jesus. I instantly recognized his energy without question, just like I knew that was my Father. And when he showed up, more love was bestowed upon me. And I felt so unworthy of that love, the guilt of knowing the things that I had done and said. I had done nothing wrong. I knew I didn't deserve to be there. And they made it very clear that I was home and that I was loved and that I had done nothing wrong. And that was the hardest part for me to get over when I came back. Because, again, I don't know how long this took. Jesus had put his hands on my soul, or I don't like calling it a soul, but in my energy, and he pushed me very gently and lovingly back into my body, and then pushed my body back down on the bed, and I was instantly out. And then I don't know how long I was out, but when I awoke, there were nurses frantically trying to wake me up. And I looked immediately to the left, and that presence was gone. And I'm looking at these people, and I'm like, how do I tell somebody what just happened to me? Where I was. I wasn't in this planet. I was looking at a dead body, me on the bed, and I had no love for this thing that I was in. And they said, well, we're here to give you meds. And I was like, I don't want any meds. I want to be left alone. Leave me, please. A few days later, I was discharged, and I just discharged myself. I shouldn't have, because I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't eat. I had no business leaving that hospital, but I did. And I came home and tried to make sense of what happened to me. I had no idea what that was. I mean, I knew at the moment, I'm like, it blew Christianity out of the water for me. Everything that I had ever been taught was a lie. And I'm desperately trying to make sense of, again, what had happened to me. And that, in essence, was my NDE. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get emotional on you, but when I truly talk about it, it's just what happens. I mean, I'm filled with a love that you will never find on this earth, ever. I don't care if you have children, doesn't matter. That love does not exist.
That's so true. And I got a bit emotional hearing you speak. So I think it happens with these kinds of experiences. Now, tell me, you mentioned during your NDE, you felt a love that you felt unworthy of. And I think often enough when we think of religion, we feel unworthy of forgiveness because we tend to fixate on what we think we've done wrong, or where we think we've sinned or we've made mistakes. Now, how have you reconciled that feeling with the fact that you do deserve to be loved and you are worthy of love and of forgiveness?
That's a great question. It was a couple months later, so it was April, May. It was about June of 2020, and I was struggling. I was deep in depression, and I remember sitting here, and I got up off the couch, and I'm like, you picked the wrong person, okay? And I know who I'm talking to now, and I know they're listening. When I mean they, I'm saying the non-physical home, God, Jesus, your higher ups and stuff. I'm like, you can't do that to people. You know that, don't you? I mean, you can't give them something like that and then say, oh, I'll be an Indian giver. Ha ha, you got to go back now. I said, no. I said, you picked the wrong person, because I'm feeling guilty and ashamed of myself, of the things that I have done, and I'm now in my bedroom pacing back and forth and kind of yelling at God. And, I said, you should have picked the Pope, and I'm struggling. I'm still trying to, put two and two together, and how, and this is the first time that I heard God speak to me, my Father. Um, and I said it for the last time, and I was kind of, you picked the wrong person. And I was in my bedroom, and as soon as I said that, it was a very stern voice, but very loving and compassionate. And he said, when I said that, you've picked the wrong person. He said, why not? You are my son. And again, I dropped to the end of my bed. I just collapsed. And I put my arms up, and how I said this, why this even came into me, because I had never said anything like this before. I had put my hands up, and I said, for all that I am you. And in that moment, I truly forgave myself. And I began to love myself. And I do. When somebody says, who do you love the most in this world? Me. Don't you love your children? Of course I do. But they come third on the list. I said, I come first. And I said, that is when I completely surrendered to the fact of knowing who I am, or not who I am, but what I am. And that is, the direct manifestation of my Father, just in a physical form. And I forgave myself for all that I have done. And I still keep forgiving situations that pop up, and I'm doing the work of cleaning up. And I began to love myself unconditionally, and I know that I've done no wrong. Did I make some mistakes? Yep. Could I have done things a little better? Mm-hmm. But does it mean they were wrong? No. That means that they were lessons learned. Earth is nothing more than a school. This is nothing more than a matrix. It's a dream, really. We're all dreaming. And this is just like a test server if you play video games, right? You go to the test server to try things out. It doesn't really do anything or harm anything. So this is what this place is, Earth. The whole universe, as a matter of fact, is we created it. So that is when I finally surrendered. And it was a long journey. I mean, it's been 4 years, coming up on 5 years now. And yeah, that was the most profound change, was for the first time in my life, loving myself. When I felt my Father's love for me and Jesus's love for me, I knew I was, for the first time in my life, that I was worthy of love and being loved, and I am that love. And it sent me down a path of helping others, wanting to help others, because there are just so many who are lost in religion, who are lost in feeling they're unworthy of God, they're unworthy of being loved. And that is simply not the case. And I knew what I came to this earth to do. It was clearly given to me, to be a teacher, to show and to tell everybody who they are, to break them from the bonds of religion, especially the Catholic Church, which, says you are to sacrifice everything about your life. And if you are even a trillionth of a minuscule worthy of being saved, you might during the rapture, get saved. No, everyone goes home. There's no laying in the dirt. There's none of that. You are not to sacrifice any part of your life for anyone or anything. If you are not happy in your job, leave it. If you are not happy in your marriage, leave it. God does not hold you responsible or tied down to a piece of paper, period. End of subject. If you're not happy, leave. You are not to sacrifice any part of your life. It is a gift. I need to make this very clear. God does not have to allow any of this at all. That's not what we were created for. The fact that you and I are having this conversation right now is paramount to your Father's absolute love for you. He does not have to allow us to be here to do this, to experience a physical existence. It is the biggest gift from God that we could ever have. And I want people to know that, and that they are not to sacrifice any part of it for anyone or anything. You came here to work on you, period. You come first. I don't care who you are, what vehicle you're driving. I happen to be driving a male vehicle. Why am I in a male vehicle? Well, my ego created the male vehicle because I needed to accomplish what I needed to accomplish here in the West in a male vehicle. Now, I could have done it in a female vehicle, but it would have made it 1,000 times harder. So I am simply in a male vehicle. Some of you are in a female vehicle. Why? Your ego needed you to be in a female vehicle. Pure and simple. That's it. So that's where that came from.
It's a very beautiful way to look at things. And I can imagine, or I can pretty much bet that this is not how you looked at things before your NDE. So I can imagine it was quite a change to become who you are today. And in order for us to change, a lot of the old patterns have to break, and that's very difficult. So walk me through the months and the years following your discharge from the ICU, where you're still, I'm imagining, in pain, and you still have so much recovery to do. And at the same time, you cannot keep going back to being the person you were before. So what was navigating that change like for you?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say obsessed, but I had to find out what happened to me. Everything that I had ever been taught was changed in a trillionth of a second. So I came home, and when I came home, it took me weeks to learn how to walk, talk, eat. I know it's going to sound gross, but I was so lethargic, I couldn't get out of bed. So I laid in my own feces for days because I had no one to take care of me. None. I couldn't get out of bed. When I'd roll out of bed and I would drag myself on the floor to get to the shower, and then I'd barely be able to get to turn the water on, and then I would have no strength. So I would just sit there shaking uncontrollably, trying to clean myself off. But when all of that stuff happened, and a month or so later, I just went on a research binge. I went to the internet and typed in certain things and into YouTube, because something said go to YouTube, and I had never looked at YouTube prior to this, and I came across near-death experience, NDEs, and somebody said they had died, and so I started watching these things, and I was like, for months just sobbing uncontrollably, like somebody gets it. This has happened to somebody else too, right? And I began to read things. I began to being pushed into certain books to read to also expand the knowledge. And again, I'm being given downloads, and I wake up every day just having an absolute knowing without question, And I just began to do a lot of research. And one of them was like, who wrote the Bible? Did God really write the Bible? Because I was just shown that that shit didn't, excuse my language, exist. And sure enough, it didn't. Man wrote the Bible. God has nothing to do with the Bible in any way, shape, or form. Doesn't care about it. Neither does Jesus. Jesus did not want to be put in that position, and he's quite irritated about it. He's got a big bone to pick with the Catholic Church. And he's going to use me as that bone. And so I just really went on a knowledge binge, and I'm still reading. I am still working, and I'm still, meditating. I've learned to meditate, and I've had 2 out-of-body experiences. I've had 3 meetings with angels, 2 of them with my archangel Michael, and 1 this last Easter with my guide Jeffrey. And these experiences have again pushed me toward what I came here to do, and that is to teach. When in my second out of body experience, I don't know if you want me to go into any of this stuff.
Yeah, I would love to hear more.
Okay, so my first my first out of body experience took place after my or before my meeting with my first meeting. I'm trying to put things together. So I had a profound 2 years, so it's 2022, and again I'm researching and watching videos, and I woke up very so this is March of 2022, very emotional, crying, as I still do. And I'm like, why did you have to leave me in the hospital? Why couldn't I come home? Why did I have to stay there? And there's so much more that I can go into about it, but regardless, why couldn't I come home? Like a 2-year-old pouting to God, having the most beautiful experience of your life, the knowledge, the wisdom that has come with it, I'm still pouting. So I walked from my bedroom down the hall, came here, laid on the couch, and the moment my head hit the pillow, I was pulled into utter blackness. And I mean, like at the speed of light. Woof, gone. Apartment gone, the world gone. I'm in now the void, what I knew was the void. And I'm traveling down this tunnel at immense speed. I would have to say the speed of light. And everything around me that I could see, just like in the ICU, everything around me was utter blackness. No sound, no smell, just void of everything. But in the distance, and I'm saying distance, meaning way far away, was like all I could see was a pinhead of light. Just this little dot of white light. And I'm traveling down this tunnel. And I'm like, then gray light, like a light gray, started to permeate the tunnel in a spiral form. And I was like, he heard me. I'm going home, right? And time again ceased to exist. I don't know how long I was gone. And I'm still traveling down this tunnel. And this white is now getting bigger. It's now like an inch long. Again, no music, no sound, just traveling immensely fast. And this wall of light is getting bigger and bigger. And finally, all I see is this most magnificent, pure, beautiful white light. Magnificent. It was just absolutely beautiful, pure, innocent, right? And now it is all encompassing. I'm not in it, but I am very close to it, right? And now I'm so close that, and I'm feeling the love like I did in the ICU room. I'm being inundated with this love. And I knew I knew I was going home. Father was taking me home. He heard exactly what I was saying. And I got right up to that white light. And I mean, a nose hair away from that light. And I was jolted back into my body. I came crashing back into my body instantly. And I looked around in my apartment, and I just smiled and I said, yeah, you're being heard. It may sound like a one-way street. It's not. Your prayers, your thoughts, your love are being answered. God speaks to you through your emotions. He will not use words unless it is absolutely necessary. He hates our language. It's barbaric. There's no way to really describe it. So he talks to us through our emotions. When you're happy and you're sad and you're crying, that's love. That's Father. He's and your higher self talking to you. You know, listen to them. They're there for a reason. And that was a profound experience. Then that same year, when I was at work, and I was in a huge building, and it's a job that I didn't want to be in and whatever, but I was in a part of a building that was completely locked down, and I was the only one with the key. So I'd come through a locked door, looked around, and then all of a sudden there was somebody standing there. Like, I jumped a little bit and I'm like, whoa, where did you come from? And in my head, you know, it's like, you made no sound. What, you know, I turned around to look at the door, and I turn around and then you're standing in front of me. No noise. And he's like, hi. He says, yeah, you know, don't mind the clothes. I was just going to go into the bathroom. And that's where I was going. And I was like, where did you come from? How did you get here? You know, and I'm looking around. Everything was where it should be. I go into this bathroom, and he was a beautiful man. Just ratty clothes, but he had a very square jaw, like square, just very masculine, very neatly trimmed brown beard, you know, very short trimmed hair, very meticulous. And he was just smiling at me, just smiling at me. And we ended up talking about my NDE, and then he changed places, but when he was talking about it, he just lifted his head straight up, like straight up, and was just smiling. Then he moved over to the left a little bit, and I finished talking, and he put his head down, and he reached his hand out. He goes, your name is Jason, right? And I was like, whoa, I never told you my name. And when he shook my hand, it was cold. Like, there was no blood in it. It was just like cold, right? And not dead cold, but, you know, just that kind of, yeah, it was weird. And then when he squeezed my hand, it was a phenomenal strength. I have never felt strength like that in my entire life. And I knew something was up. I couldn't place what was going on. What is happening here? And I'm like, and he shook my hand and he started to walk away, and he looked over his shoulder and he goes, Jason, you'll hear from me soon. And he opened up the door and walked out. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I went to go ask him where he came from, and there was nobody there. Nothing. Long hallway, all the doors were locked. There was nobody there. And I was extremely tired at that point. I was like, I'm tired. I was like, what happened? And I literally went up to this couch on the third or fourth floor, and I fell asleep. And I woke up and I was like, what was that? And then I had run across a picture of Archangel Michael, and it was exactly him with short hair. And I was like, God is sending me Archangel Michael. What is going on? That was my first meeting with him. All right. I'm trying to put these events in order because they've happened so fast. So the following year, a few months later, this is when Damar Hamlin, I don't know if you're watching, probably not, is a professional football player. I was watching a football game that night, and he made a tackle, and he got up and dropped dead. He was in cardiac arrest. And when I watched that scene, I somehow just put my head back, and I was pulled out of my body, and I was in another realm, in another dimension. I was walking on a beach, and it looked like Star Wars. There were two moons overlapping. in this beautiful beach, and there was a black figure walking to me, not like dark, but it was against the sun, so I couldn't see them. All I saw was their outline, when I mean black. Beautiful sun and warmth, and then there was another presence right next to me, and I was like, wow, look at that, 1111, angel number. I love you guys. And I'm like, who are you? And I'm just this, I don't know if I was walking, floating, whatever, but he says, I'm Jeffrey. I've been with you, I've always been with you, were his exact words. And I'm like, Jeffrey, I'm like, man, that's a Toys R Us giraffe here, in the States. And I'm like, I can't call you Jeffrey. And I'm laughing and kind of snickering. And I'm like, Jeffrey, how many times have I been here? How many times have I died? 1111. Wow, I feel that in me. And he says, you're ancient. He said, you've died over 3,200 times. He says, you're ancient. And then I was pulled back into my body. And then by the time I opened my eyes, the whole stadium was empty and dark, just some people talking on the TV. And I'm like, what was that about? And I'm like, what the hell does ancient mean? Right? I mean, what does ancient mean? I mean, okay, I get we did all of this, but so then I started going on a binge about finding out that, and I finally did find out almost 6 months, about 6 to 8 months later, what that meant. And that's a whole different story, but that's fine. Last year, about a year ago, in March, 16 months ago, I was coming out of sushi with somebody. And when we came out of sushi, there was a bum who I perceived as a bum, was sitting at the very end of my Jeep. And I felt drawn to this person. So we walked up, and again, he's smiling at me like the guy in the bathroom. And I'm like, feeling that thing again, that feeling. And I'm like, what's going on here? And he goes like, hi, how are you? Smiling and just filled with love. And I'm feeling that energy again. We went through some things. I don't want to explain the whole thing, but when he started talking about certain things, she panicked, the person I was with. I mean, she went white because he was talking about things that could never possibly have known about. And she looked at me and said, and she grabbed the key and ran and locked herself in the Jeep. And I'm standing out there talking to him. He's like, you love video games. And I go, yeah, I do. And I'm like, he goes, it's really about the love. And that threw me off. And I was looking at him again, and he gave me a fist bump, cold hand again. And I'm like, I'm trying to put two and two together. And he goes, it really is about the love. And he gave me another fist bump. And I said, and he's just smiling, just like this, just smiling, never stopped until this moment. And I said, yes, it is about the love. I said, love is the only thing that matters. I said, I had a near-death experience 2 years ago. And he goes, he turned his head to the side like this. He goes, I know you did. And I'm like, and I turned my head to make sure she was okay. Now, he was sitting down on the ground, like on the curb, right, on his butt. He had a cane and a bag next to him, a blue cane and a blue bag. As I turned to see if she was okay, I turned around and looked, and he's standing right in front of me, like 2 feet away. And I'm like, I jumped. I'm like, how did you just move about 8 feet and without making any sound, right? And I'm like, what is going on? And he looks at me again. He turns his head to the side. He goes, your name is Jason, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. What's going on? And I put my hand up and I'm like, would you walk with me? Would you take, I'm like, sure. He goes, you're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, meaning financially, and, like I have been my whole life. And I'm like, yeah, it's nothing new. And he says, you know, I'm an alcoholic. He said, last month I drank $110,000. I said, worth of booze? Alcohol. He goes, yeah, it's kind of why I'm homeless. I was like trying to make, how could anybody drink? You'd be dead, right? And he said, would you be okay with that? I said, what? 110,000? He goes, yes. Now he's walking in front of me. And I said, making that kind a year? He goes, a month. I said, a month. Yeah. He says, okay, good. And I'm like, where's this coming? Where's this going? And he goes, would you be willing to relocate? And I'm like, relocate? Like move? And I go, sure, where? And he says, Sacramento? California. Sure, sure, for that kind of money a month? Sure, I'll move. And he was like ecstatic. And he said, would you please carry my bag? And he was so happy. Got him into where he wanted to go, which was a restaurant, right? And it was weird. When we walked in, nobody paid attention to any of us, either one of us. It was like people just went up, at least when somebody walks in somewhere, they look at you, right? And say, oh, okay, then whatever. There were no looks. There was nothing, right? And you know something's up, but you can't put it together. So I got him to the bar and I put his bag down. And once again, he says, Jason, it was a pleasure meeting you. He said, you'll hear from me again soon. And I said, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for your time. And I said, I hope you have a blessed day. And I turned around and I was walking out of the door to the restaurant. I looked over the back of my shoulder. There's nobody there, just a restaurant full of people. I got back into my car and I'm like, then I saw his face again. And then, of course, he's gone again. And I'm like, that was Archangel Michael again. Except this time his beard was the same thing, same square jaw, except it was a dark red beard and same color hairstyle, everything. But it was a darker red. And I went home and I crashed for like 4 hours. And then this last Easter, I had a profound experience again. I was coming in for Easter dinner, even though I didn't believe in Easter anymore. I just said, you know what, I want a nice meal. Went and got my stuff. But when I walked in to the store, there was a woman there who never acknowledged my existence. And there was a little child, I'd say about a 2-year-old, 3-year-old maybe, in the cart having a little temper tantrum. And again, neither one of them looked at me, which was weird because somebody will always look at you. I don't care where you go. They want to know who's there. It's just curiosity. Nothing. And I just remember seeing them and like, that was weird. But anyway, I went in there, got my stuff, and I happened to be I needed some olive oil. So I walked about 15 feet in. You know, here in the States, grocery store aisles, they're long. They're really long, right? So I was about 15 feet in, and I'm like this, trying to find my olive oil, which has never taken me time before. I know exactly where it's at. Like, where is this stuff? And when I walked in, right, to that aisle, there's that same mother and child right off about like 6 inches away from the olive oil where it started. And I'm like, how did you guys get here that fast? Because I had just gotten a couple things and I really went there. I only needed a few things. It's like, there's no coincidences, right? And I'm thinking, and then as I'm sitting there like this, I see a black mass walk right next to me. It walked right through the groceries. And I looked up and I'm like, he goes, it's a young guy this time. I'm like, how did you, what? You know? And now nobody's walking down the aisles or nothing, right? Everything is like time stopped, right? The glitch in the matrix. So this time, this guy's young, got a little hairy goatee, really, but he's young. Not the same guy I saw twice before. And I'm looking at him and he's like, would you be interested in a Bible study? I was like, no, young man, right? And now when I looked at him, that same couple, the baby and the mom, were just standing there completely motionless, blank stare on the, like, never moved. I mean, never moved, never batted an eyelash, nothing, just complete stillness. And he's talking to me about this Bible stuff, and I'm like, no, because now by this time I had been meditating quite heavily and going through my mantra and saying what I came here to do and what I'm going to do, and which one of them was to go against, organized religion. I don't want to get into that now, but then he walked in front of me. But then when he walked in front of me, because I was like this way, those two that were standing there, one in the cart and the mom, were gone. Where'd they go? They were gone. So as I was like, and he moved in front of me, and he was like, well, this, the second coming. I said, Jesus is not coming. There is no second coming of Christ. I said, the Bible's wrong. I said, the Bible's wrong in every way. It's garbage. And I said, thank you, young man. And I was laughing at him, but I said, no, I want no part of it. Jesus walks this earth every day in an incarnation. And I said, but no, thank you. And he says, he shook my hand. And again, it was cold, and he shook my hand. And I said, he said, I hope you have a blessed holiday. I said, I will enjoy my meal. Thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful day. But this time I know something's going on, right? So I put my head back down into this position. They're gone. The shopping cart, the whole, no noise, they're gone. And I'm like, I look over, gone. There's no way within the 4 seconds that he could have reached 20 feet, 30 feet without either running, but then I would hear his footsteps or whatever. He just walked into another dimension, gone. So these are the things that are happening to me consistently, and now I haven't moved yet because I haven't been given that information. He said, you'll hear from me soon. Well, soon to the non-physical, according to them, I've only been gone maybe a day, even though it's been over a year now, year and a half. So these are the kinds of things that are happening to me consistently. I'm seeing people walk through my walls. I'll be going to the bathroom and I'll look over and I'll see somebody in like a robe, a white robe, walk through my bedroom, just like cut off right here, just complete legs and all, walk right through. I felt people get off my bed when I wake up in the morning. I'll start to wake up and I'll feel somebody just, I don't know if you have a partner or not, but when somebody gets off your bed, right? And I looked over and I'm like, there's nobody here. I've just been having these very, very deep spiritual experiences. And now I'm seeing, as you may have known when I mentioned that, it was 1111 when I looked up. That's an angel number. That's a divine number right there telling me that I am right where I need to be. Everything is proceeding as planned. The 1111. And I trust that because now I've started to see these for the last 2 months, these repeating numbers, 11, 111, 222, 333, 444, 555, 666. And sometimes they're in quadruple numbers. Last Friday, a week ago, driving home to go to the pet store, the license plate number, 4 6s, 6666. That is divine communication from my spirit guides and from home that what I have been working on for these last 4 years is coming to fruition. It is right here. And it's divine communication. So these are the things that are happening to me because I have been going within to find myself, to find, and to connect to home. So I'm not just being ignored. I'm listening to the signs. They're talking to me every day. Like when I just said, when I was talking to you, it was 1111, and I felt it in here. I felt the love, and that's just. These are the things that most people will just look at there and walk away. That's divine communication, right there. So and they're saying, hey, keep it up.
Did at any point, did these encounters, and you've mentioned, seeing people in your room, through your walls, people, spirits, I guess, is a better term for it. Doesn't it scare you?
No, you're loved, and they're there around you. I'm surrounded by love. These are my guides. These could be my family members, soulmates. I am just vibrating at such a high frequency now that I'm starting to see it. I can feel them. It's not all the time, but because I have raised myself out of the darkness, I have raised my vibration. I am living in love. I'm living in gratitude. And those are the things that you can start to see, but you have to work on yourself. Everything you have is within you. We weren't abandoned here. We weren't just left to the wolves, but everything you have is within you. You have to go get it. So no, it doesn't. It just makes me feel comfortable. Like when I go to bed at night, I'm like, yeah, they're here. I can feel them. I'll wake up in the morning and I'll meditate and I can feel them, and it's very comforting to me, very comforting. But to some, it might scare them, oh, I've seen ghosts. No, you're just seeing your guides and your family. Like I say, your family's all around you. Your great 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 grandfather and your grandmother or grandparent. They're around you. You just can't see them. They're just in another dimension. Not until you raise your vibration and raise your energy that you can match theirs, because they're at such a high frequency, right? That until you do that, you won't be able to see it. So no, it doesn't scare me at all. It's very comforting to me. It's very loving. Like I said, we're living in the greatest love story ever. We've just forgotten it. And I'm here to wake everybody up to say, listen, folks, you can have these experiences too, but this is how you do it. You got to go within.
Now, you've mentioned earlier, you said God speaks to us through our emotions. And especially being a woman, I'll tell you, my emotions are all over the place. And I think the other day I wanted to cry. I wanted to cry so bad, but there was no reason for it. There was nothing I could say, this made me sad or annoyed or anything. Just felt like crying. Other times I might feel sad. I might feel anxious. What is the message there? What are we to understand when we're feeling sad, when we're feeling hopeless, when we're feeling angry, for instance?
That is simply your guidance system. And we were given two things by Father when we decided to come on this crazy journey. And I'll answer your question in a second. So when we decided to come here, this is basically what took place. When we're all at home, right? To all of you, what's home? That's heaven. It's not heaven. It's just home. That's the church jargon, the church crap that they gave you. But when we're home, then Father wants something from us. We come together as a collective consciousness, all of us, right? And us being gods, we create what Father wants, right? And of course, out of love, and we, like I said, you can't understand the love, but out of love, we create what Father wants. And then one day we got this brilliant idea, hey, I want to be the boss. Why can't I call the shots? So we come to Father with that. So, I want to be the boss. I want to call the shots. Yeah? Okay. Well, there you go. Gives us the void, right? What is the void? It's void of everything. So in order for us to come here, we have to, in order to incarnate into a physical life, you have to stand before God, Father, oneness, all that is, whatever you need to call God. God doesn't care. And like I said, I call him Father. So you stand before God and you sit there with your overlord, which is like a supervisor. It's a very high dimensional being that's in charge of your spiritual growth, period. So all that being is concerned with is just you. And there, for all of you, you have your own overlord, supervisor. You have your archangel that is always with you, and you have your guides who are always with you. So you come up with this plan that you want to experience in a physical world, right? So you come up with this plan. Then you will incarnate. But the universe was created by us. Well, what do you mean? God didn't know. God has nothing or wants nothing to do with this. This is all of us. So when we all decided this, what happened? Right? We all began to dream. Why? We're gods, we're creators, we're protectors too, but we create. So what we did is when we all went to sleep as a creative consciousness, you know it simply as the Big Bang. Boom! The universe was created. Who's creating it? You, me, everybody that is on this planet now at home dreaming, your higher self. Okay? So you know it as the Big Bang. Kaboom! The universe is born. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the universe is alive. Well, what does alive mean? It's just dead space. No. By saying it's alive, it meaning the universe is consciously aware of itself. Okay? Not only that, it is consciously aware of each and every one of you and knows exactly where you are in it and your place in it. Make no mistake about it. The universe is alive. We created the universe. So then you stand before Father, so you show him the plan, and he'll approve or disapprove. Since we're here, he approved it. And then you choose your parents, you choose where you want your lessons to take place. So, I was born in the West, you were born in Europe. Either way, then you incarnate, and you think because mom and dad got together and gave it the old 1-2, right? That's how it was created. No, once mom and dad met, because you were sending uber amounts of love, flooding mom and dad with love, like uber amounts, that you got mom and dad to mate. Mom and dad mate. And then once that happens, that's it. The ego takes over the creation of the body. End of subject. There is nothing else. The ego takes over. And in that moment that you decided to incarnate, 3 things happened. You created fear, guilt, and the ego. That's it. Why? You stepped away from all that is, from oneness. You separated yourself by saying, I'm not you anymore. I'm an individual. Thus, creating fear, guilt, and the ego. Now, the ego takes over the creation of the body. You look exactly the way the ego wants you to look. Okay? So now when you were saying the other day that you wanted to sit there and cry, that's because you're in tune with your guidance system, which when we came here, we were not abandoned or thrown to the wolves like Father's pissed off. Oh, no. I said, okay, I'm going to give you 2 ways to come home to reach to me every single day. One is your guidance system. And by that means that is when you are in tune with your guidance system or love, when you're feeling love, like love for mom, dad, a boyfriend, a spouse, whatever, when you're in love and you're feeling emotional, feeling like you want to cry and you're laughing and hugging and you want to make love to a certain person, you're in alignment with your guidance system. How do you know when I'm out of alignment? You're pissed off, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're smashing shit, you're throwing shit. That's your higher self telling you, your avatar, hey, you're out of alignment with your guidance system. We need to get back on track, right? So that's how you know you're not in tune with your guidance system. You're mad, you're angry, you're pissed off, you're violent, right? You need to find what's causing that, fix it, and come back into alignment with love, your higher self. So when you're feeling that love, like you want to cry out of nowhere, that is where that is coming from. You're being inundated with love from home, and that's okay. Cry, let it out. Now, the same aspect, the second key that was given to us was our sexual energy. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, your sexual energy, your desires, your need to mate, to masturbate has been given to you by God as a way of reaching home. Yes, home, believe it or not. The church will tell you otherwise, that it is a filthy sin. Well, sin doesn't exist. Okay? That is something the church made up because they knew who Jesus was, what he was teaching, that your sexual energy was a way to reach home. And I'll give you an example. And I don't know if this has happened to you, or somebody out there will listening to this will understand this, that when you're with your partner, right, and you are sharing bodily fluids, kissing, doing all that we do, that is absolutely beautiful and perfect, and Father is enjoying every minute of it. So is Jesus. They want to see us mating all the time because we're in alignment with love, and that is the ultimate love, to share yourself with another being. And it doesn't matter whether it's same sex or not. It does not matter. Love is everything.
That's a very beautiful message, Jason. And it was such a pleasure speaking with you. I think we've learned so much about emotions, about forgiveness, about sins, about feeling unworthy of love, and about the fact that we're actually all together in this and that there's no separation. So I feel like people by this point, they may want to know more about you and about your work. So how can they connect with you?
Sure. Of course, my YouTube channel, it's Love and Light Jason. So, look me up there. I have a lot of videos. I just did a live session last night. And of course, they can go to my website if they want to connect with me for a one-on-one session. That is loveandlightjason.com. And there they can reach out to me and schedule a session, or, look at my website there. But a lot of people, comment through my YouTube, but my website is also available for one-on-ones, which is picking up. It's doing more business.